Hi ladies, it's Dawn. Welcome back to my channel. So today I have a two-part video for you, and I'm just going to put up two videos within a day of each other or right around the same time. I'm not sure yet, but I wanted to review a new foundation from Lancome. It's not exactly a new foundation as much as it is a reformulation and shade extension of an older foundation. So that's what I want to do in this video. And then I wanted to do an all Lancome spring makeup look, which, as you can see, I've already done it, and that will be in part 2. So you can check over there, and I also tell you about some sales and things coming up. So if you've been watching me, you know that I am a loyal Lancome lover. I love Lancome makeup, I love Lancome skincare, and Lancome does try to stay current by releasing new products fairly often. Every couple times a year at least, they release a new product or a new fragrance or something like that. So they do try to stay current in this realm of fast makeup where brands pop up and go broke all the time really quickly. Lancome is just a really stable brand that's been around for a long time, and I don't foresee them going anywhere. So the way I found out about this new product, which is my favorite foundation, the Tint Ultra Wear foundation, and I noticed that my Ulta reconfigured their store, particularly in the high-end section. They've brought in a lot of high-end brands that weren't there before. Natasha Denona, Dior, MAC is now available at my Ulta, and they reconfigured the store to make room for all these new brands, but they also kind of consolidated certain brands, and one of them is Lancome. So Lancome is still stationed where it was in my Ulta, but I noticed that they aren't displaying all the products like they used to. Instead, it's like the best loved products, like their foundations for sure, their mascaras, a couple of their eyeshadow palettes. I think they had like 4 or 5 of their quints, the 5-pan palettes to choose from. Now they only have 3 of them displayed. Same with the blushes. You can purchase them in store, and online there is more. And of course, they're still available on the Lancome website and department stores. So I noticed that at my Ulta. And when I was taking this all in and noticing all the changes, I noticed that the packaging for the Tint Ultra Wear foundation looked different. This is what it looks like. And I don't really remember what it looked like before, but this definitely caught my eye, because you know how when you see something all the time, you no longer notice it. And I knew this was different because I immediately noticed it. And so there's a Lancome representative who works in my Ulta, and she's always so helpful. I noticed the new packaging, and so I was speaking to my Lancome representative at Ulta, and I asked her, I said, did they just repackage? And she said they reformulated. So I was at Ulta for a different reason, so I didn't really pay much attention because I did notice that it costs $57 now, where it used to only be $48. That isn't unique to Lancome. All makeup brands are raising their prices, and I think it's a pity because some of us, you know, it's already hard enough trying to buy groceries and put gas in our cars and take care of other things. And now all of our cosmetics are going up in price too. And I know some of it is inflation, but I also know that they will never go back down in price unless there's a sale. Like, they're not going to suddenly reduce their prices. I've never seen that happen. When prices are permanently raised, they always seem to stay there. So I had been thinking about the Lancome foundation, and I was even saying to my friend JD, she has a channel here on YouTube, I'll link it below, and I was saying to her that Lancome raised its prices on the Tint Idol, and we both love that foundation. I love the Tint Idol in the original formula, and I love it in the new formula, and I'm going to compare and contrast them. And when I use it in this video, it'll be the first time I'm using it, but I'm obviously filming this after I applied it, and so spoiler alert, I'm very pleased with the new formulation. And now I wanted to also just tell you the new claims of the foundation and what I've learned. So I'm going to put on my readers for that. And so they did newly package and reformulate the Tint Ultra Wear foundation foundation. They expanded the shade range to include 28 newly created shades. And I will tell you that on the website and anywhere you see an advertisement for it, like on Macy's, department stores, Ulta, if you flip through the pictures, there will be a shade match on there because the shade you used to wear will not be the new shade that you'll wear. So for example, I wore 110 ivory, 110C ivory, and now I wear 130C, and I blindly purchased this using the guide, and it's spot on. It's even a better match than this one. So I did have success using the shade matching guide and purchasing this without swatching it first. So here is the claim. It is an ultra breathable, long wearing, waterproof foundation that will give you a medium buildable to full coverage with a soft, natural matte finish that looks like skin. It won't fade or transfer, and it is suitable for all skin types, even sensitive. It's unscented, and it comes in 50 shades. The new formula, like I said, includes 28 new shades. And here is like the difference. They made the formula more lightweight, so it's very lightweight. And I will compare it to the old formula so you can see the difference, because it is a difference you will notice right away. And they used pigments in it, which is kind of like a newer thing in cosmetics. A lot of brands are doing this where they are using a thinner consistency, a lighter coverage, or you need less product, but they use different pigments to give you the coverage. So the coverage comes from the pigmentation and not from the thickness of the product, which is wonderful because your makeup won't get cakey because it's just that nice thin blended in coverage, and it gives you that like flawless skin-like finish. So they did add something into their deep shades called ultramarine blue pigment for very deep shades without a gray cast. So any deep shades will have that in it. And then their olive shades, for those of you who are medium skin toned to olive, they use a pigmentation called chromium oxide green. And that is so you can have a perfect thin shade match for your olive to medium skin tone, and it will never appear yellow or orange or oxidize. And they claim that none of these will oxidize. And then in the lighter shades and in the other shades, they also use some kind of pinkish and greenish color correcting pigments. So not only are you applying your foundation, but you're also color correcting redness and things like that. On the Lancome website, they do suggest adding a little bit of the Advanced Genifique to the formula. If you'd like to do that, they work very well together. However, I do use the Advanced Genifique. It's my favorite serum, and I just apply this onto my skin before I apply my sunblock. And so I already had it on my skin when I went in with the foundation. So I wanted to tell you that just in case you're someone who likes to mix a little serum with your foundation, they do suggest that, or just suggesting putting the Advanced Genifique right up against your skin and then going in with the foundation. And they also added more SPF to the product. The old Tint Idol has an SPF of 15 and the new has an SPF of 25. Now you still need to wear your SPF beneath your makeup, or sometimes I like to use a powder form of SPF to reapply my sunblock over my makeup during the day. So you're still going to need to do that and not just rely on the SPF 25, but it is good that there is a little more SPF for those days when you're just kind of in the house doing work or whatever, and you aren't really doing a lot and you don't need to really wear a heavy sunblock. Sometimes I just rely on my foundation for that. I know somebody's going to yell at me, but that's what I do. So that is a little bit about the new foundation, and in this video I will be applying it and doing a little bit of comparing and contrasting to the old formula so that you can make a decision if you think this will be right for you. And I also wanted to add, when I purchased mine, I found it on sale for $48. It used to be $47 for the original, and now, like I said, it has jumped up $10, but you can still get it for $48, like at Macy's and different department stores. So I haven't had any problem finding this on sale. So look for a sale. Don't just go into Ulta and spend your $57. Definitely check the department stores. And I had such success using the color matching guide that I would recommend it. But if you are someone who finds it tricky to match your foundations, I would go into the store and swatch it and see, but definitely don't pay $57 because you don't have to. And so I'm gonna jump in and compare these, and I am going to call this video part 1. And if you want to watch part 2, I'm going to do an all Lancome Get Ready With Me, finishing up my makeup look and adding some final thoughts. So thank you for spending some time with me. Let's just jump in and get started. I thought I would start by swatching my old shade in the old formula 110C and compare it to my new shade in the new formula, which is 130C, on the website and on department store sites, probably Sephora and Ulta, wherever this is sold. If it's not from a third party or anything like that, they do include a color matching guide that lists all the old shades and then an arrow pointing to your new shade. And I did just blindly purchase this using the color matching guide. So I wanted to see how it would look compared to the old shade. So let me show you that. So this is 110C in the old formula, and this is 130C in the new formula. I did observe something that I took note of while I was doing these swatches. So I'm going to show you this is the old formula. And when I went to go get the swatch, I just pumped a little on my hand like this. That's what I typically do. And I just wiped my hand in it and applied it. And then when I opened the new one, I did shake both of these vigorously. I always shake my foundations, even if they don't say to, just because I have learned the hard way, sometimes not shaking up a foundation and then using it, I find that sometimes I don't like it. And then once I do shake it up, I realize that was the mistake and I actually do like the foundation. So I always give them a shake, even if there isn't a bead in there and it doesn't seem like anything is mixing up. I just do it anyways. And I would probably recommend doing that too. Okay, so this is my new shade in 130C. And what I observed is that the old formula is thick and kind of like a glob. And the new formula is a thinner consistency. As you can see, it's running. It's not as thin as a serum where it's really watery, or the kind of product where you're afraid to use a sponge because your sponge will absorb all your product. Maybe though, it is pretty runny and watery. And so that's one difference. And so that tells me that it is a thinner formula and it's probably going to feel lighter on my skin, which is one of the claims. The color match does look slightly different, but I do think the new shade looks better. I just did the same exact thing. I put the formula down on my arm and kind of just rubbed it out, not enough to blend it in, but enough so that you could see the color. And then I did the same thing here. And I can already tell that I can blend them both in still. So that's the same. It hasn't changed, where, you know, some foundations you have to work quickly. And if you don't, it's harder to blend or it can get patchy. I never had a problem with that with the old formula, and it doesn't appear to be a problem with the new formula either. So other than that, the bottles look pretty much the same. This is the new one. It has the name Lancome going vertically instead of horizontally across the top. And the old formula had an SPF of 15 and the new formula has an SPF of 25. So they did up the SPF, and that is a good. I did read on the website that they recommend applying it with your fingers. I am someone who doesn't like to use my fingers to apply my foundation. I do use my fingers sometimes for like a cream blush and things like that. But I don't know, I just don't like the feeling of like my warm fingers rubbing the foundation on. It's just like a little quirk of mine. So I'm not going to do that because I know that isn't the way that I'll apply it anyway. But for the rest of you, if you do like using your fingers, that is the recommended way. And you will not waste product doing that because it won't be getting absorbed by your brush or your sponge and so on. And if you've been watching me, you know I always use my hand as a palette. That's how it looks. It's such a good match, right? The color match is really good for just blindly purchasing it using their guide. And I'm going to use my Sephora 70 foundation brush. This is my new favorite brush for applying foundation. And whenever this brush is clean, this is the one I grab if I'm not using a sponge. So I'm just gonna pick it up on my brush and just kind of dab it around my face. I wouldn't do this on a foundation that you have to work fast because I don't like any of it to sit and like potentially dry out and make it harder to blend. But since I know that isn't a problem, this is the way I do it. And I'm just gonna do one very thin layer and see what happens. As you can see, it's very, very thin. It's not much foundation at all. I'm so happy that my pimples from a month ago when I was on spring break are healing. I don't have any new breakouts, and some of the redness is fading from the big breakouts that I had when I came back from vacation. Okay, so that is one very, very light go around. And it does claim to be a medium full coverage foundation. And I would say I agree with that. It isn't a full coverage right now because I put it on so thin. So it doesn't have to be a full coverage just because it says it is a full coverage. If you go very light-handed, you'll start with a medium coverage, but then you can build it. And that's what I plan to do. But I am very pleased with the way it looks with just that one go around. I have a lot less redness showing on my face. And, you know, I can see my freckles through it and a little bit of redness like on my cheeks, but we're going to go around again and see the coverage I get with another pump. And the first one was just one little pump. So it does have the pump, which I love. And then one pump looks like that. Again, not very much product at all. I don't feel that I'm wasting it. I don't feel like my brush is absorbing it. And this time I'm just going to work in zones. I'll do my forehead first. I'm going to go around the perimeter of my face, my chin. Okay, and now this is where I always like a little more coverage on my cheeks. I don't like to entirely cover my freckles because I do like them to show through. When I use a full coverage foundation that really is like a thicker kind of full coverage, which isn't always a bad thing because there are some beautiful full coverage foundations right out of the gate, but sometimes they can look a little mask-like, almost like your skin is so perfect that it looks like you're wearing foundation, but it doesn't look like it in a bad way, not because it's cakey or anything like that. I always think of the women that work at like the Nordstrom that I go to sometimes. It's not super close to my house. I don't get to an actual Nordstrom store very often, but when I do, I always go to the cosmetics counter and the sales ladies always look just beautiful, but they always have like almost kind of like that perfect, everything is perfect, flawless complexion. I always end up asking them what foundation they're wearing because I always think they're wearing foundation. I know that for a fact, but I wonder what it is that keeps it looking so good and fresh. Okay, so this is how it looks using one additional pump, so 2 pumps of foundation, which is not very much foundation in my opinion. And I do have a nice fuller coverage foundation look. I can still see my freckles. It looks very natural and skin-like. It does claim to be a soft matte, and I guess I would agree with that, but I would definitely say it's a skin-like finish. And I did put one more pump on my hand because I'm gonna pick that up and I'm just going to conceal a little redness from using Retin-A on my neck. I did explain to all of you recently that I don't use Retin-A on my face very often. I usually use retinaldehyde or retinol because I don't like to peel very often on my face. but my neck does tolerate my Retin-A, and it doesn't peel, but it does get red. And so I'm using it to kind of repair old sun damage on my neck and chest. I did protect my face from the sun very, very often, especially like when I was younger too, but I never really took good care of my neck and my chest, and I can tell the difference. I did pull out my Tint Idol concealer, and this is a newer concealer from Lancome in the past couple of years. It is a really nice one, but I don't think that I need to use it because I feel like I have the perfect amount of coverage. So I think I'm just gonna skip this step today, and I'm gonna bring you in really close so you can see how the foundation looks. I do still have a little redness on my neck, and that really is probably related to pushing on my neck with the foundation brush, because if you're so fair-skinned like I am, you'll know that often just kind of touching your skin can induce some redness. So that will kind of just die down in a little bit. But I think that the finish is super duper pretty. It does claim to be transfer proof, and it does feel like it's just dried down. It feels like my skin. It doesn't feel like I have any makeup on it. And I didn't notice any fragrance or scent at all when I was using this. And I'm gonna just smell my brush and see. But no, I don't smell anything. So it's unscented. It doesn't have any fragrance in it, which is great. And I think that's part of the reason why it's great for so many different skin types, including sensitive skin. I think it's a really beautiful finish. It does claim to be a soft matte finish, and I do think it does have a slightly more matte finish, but I think it's more of just a skin-like finish. When I'm looking in my magnifying mirror, it doesn't look cakey at all, and it's not going into my fine lines or wrinkles, and it just looks like my skin, but better. So I don't generally use a setting powder, but I do like to use a setting spray, and I really like the one from Morphe best, the one in the black can. They also have one in a white can. The black can, I think, just kind of just helps your foundation and everything meld together and look nice. But the one in the white can, it says that it gives you more of a radiant finish. So since I have an oily skin type, I don't use that one. But if you are someone who doesn't have an oily skin type and you'd like to add a little extra luminosity, that might be the one for you. But I don't feel the need to set it with a powder. I wonder if it would look a little cakey if I did add a setting powder. I think what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put on my makeup, and that'll be like part 2 of this video. And I'll add a little setting powder at the end and see how it does. So if you'd like to see that, watch part 2. And I'm gonna use all Lancome makeup in that video as well. So I hope I'll see you there. And I hope you enjoyed this little review of the new Lancome Tint Idol Ultra Wear Foundation. My first impression is very, very good. So if you'd like to see how I do the rest of my makeup, doing a spring Lancome makeup look using some favorite products from Lancome that I have in my collection and use all the time, come on over and watch part 2. Thank you for spending some time with me, and I hope you have a blessed and beautiful day. I'll see you soon.